It Is What It Is. Written by The Red Parade. Read by Everfreeze Narrations. Make it fast.
Okay, so, who gave you the coffee mug again? I told you this already, Silver Spoon.
Diamond Tiara groaned. Silver Spoon looked around the pile of presents, scratching her head in confusion.
Fine, but pay attention this time.
Diamond Tiara instructed before clearing her throat.
The coffee cup is from Probably Rich, the sweater is from Kinda Rich, and the socks are from Not Rich. These gifts are from Sorta Rich, and this clock...
She paused, raising an eyebrow.
Who's this again from, Dad?
That's from your Uncle Crazy. Filthy Rich replied, flipping a page in his newspaper.
Of course it is.
Diamond Tiara shrugged, setting it back on the table with the other pile of presents.
He probably made it himself too.
Filthy chuckled, sipping from his mug of coffee with a keen smile. That he did. Your uncle's got away with wood, I'll tell you that much. The two giggled, turning to face each other again.
Well, I think you should have one more present, DT.
Silver Spoon said, pushing a beautifully wrapped parcel towards her.
You too.
Diamond Tiara answered, presenting a parcel of her own.
Here, from me.
The two laughed again, embracing the other in open arms. Filthy watched from his seat by the fireplace, a wry smile on his face as he sipped from his coffee.
She sure has changed,
he muttered under his breath.
If only Spoiled could see you now, she'd be so disappointed.
His words took a bitter turn at the end. Filthy sighed, quietly dissipating his anger to avoid ruining the otherwise tender moment. But the exchange was interrupted nonetheless by a clumsy knock on the door. Filthy sighed, setting down his paper and taking off his reading glasses.
I'll take care of it, dear,
he said to Diamond. He grunted, pulling on the sleeves of his bedroom robe.
Who in Equestria could that be on Hearth's warming day?
He wondered. Arriving at the grand oak door to his home, Filthy squinted through the peephole to see an easily recognizable gray Pegasus on the doorstep. He unbolted the door and pulled it open.
Ditzy, why in Celestia's name do they have you working on Hearth's warming day?
Oh, I'm not working,
Ditzy said in her cheery, breathy way. Filthy raised an eyebrow, glancing at the paper-wrapped package beneath her wing.
Then why does it seem like you have a delivery for me?
It's not for you, it's from you.
Ditzy tittered, offering it to him. A quick glance at the return address proved her right. Filthy scratched his head in confusion.
I don't understand.
I don't either, really,
Ditzy said.
I delivered this package to Mr. Featherbangs 3 days ago like you asked, but it's been sitting on his door ever since. I passed his house again and saw it was still there, and then I thought, oh no, what if it's food? It'll go bad. But then I realized if it was food, it was probably already bad. So then I...
Thank you, Ditzy.
Filthy quickly interjected. I think I understand now.
Oh, well, I was wondering if you want me to.
Ditzy was cut off by a foal crying out from behind her.
I'm cold. Can we go now? In a minute, Muffin,
Ditzy called back. No, it's fine, Filthy insisted. I'll take care of this. You go and have yourself a happy hearthwarming. Ditzy was unsure, but her daughter cried out again, so she conceded.
Okay, happy hearthwarming, Mr. Rich.
You too, Ditzy.
Filthy responded with a wave. He watched as she glided down the path, ushering her children back towards the town. His ear twitched as he heard the soft padding of hooves behind him.
Dad? Everything all right?
It's fine,
Filthy reassured her.
I just have to check on a friend.
The streets of Ponyville were mostly empty, and the air was only accentuated with the breaking of snow underneath Filthy's hooves. He tightened his expensive scarf around his neck, sighing as he approached a small one-story house tucked away in a corner. The building was as quaint and decorated as the other pastel houses in Ponyville, decorated in a coat of warm, gray paint. A generous layer of snow covered its roofs, and a small parade of icicles dangling from the edge. Filthy wasn't exactly a conventional genius, but he could tell that something was wrong. There was no smoke rising from the chimney, and no lights from within. The path hadn't been shoveled, and in contrast to the vibrant colors and decorations around it, this particular house looked dead. With another sigh, Filthy did his best to shove thoughts of his comfy robe, warm coffee, and beautiful daughter from his mind. He trotted up to the door and began knocking, the hollow bangs echoing into the hallway as if it were a cavern. His attempts at contact were met with silence. Filthy gave an irritated grunt, continuing his assault on the front door. "Featherbangs, I know you're in there. Open up now." The house ignored his efforts. Filthy rolled his eyes, huffing and reaching into his coat pocket. He had called Feather silly for entrusting him with something as trivial as a house key. But now, he was thankful that he had it. He pushed the door open, the creaking doing a number on his ears, and stepped into the hall. Filthy was dismayed to find that the inside was just as cold as the outside, which did little to ease his concerns. "Feather?" he called again, the house saying nothing in reply. Filthy trotted deeper into the cavernous house, looking around carefully for any signs of life. A small mountain of papers was sitting on the kitchen counter, with some stray envelopes sprawled across the floor. The sink was full of dirty dishes and cups, leaving Filthy to wonder when the last time the sink was even on. The blinds above the sink were drawn, with only slivers of sunlight being allowed in. Filthy pulled them open, dousing the room in an almost explosive radiance. The light revealed to him that the rest of the room wasn't much better. There were several empty cups scattered across the coffee table in the adjacent living room, and a tattered blanket wrapped up with piles of discarded clothes on the edge of the couch. Filthy frowned, pinching his nose at the stench, and proceeded down the hall. Noting how a few of the framed pictures had been knocked off the wall, and paused in front of another door. For a second, he feared the worst. But upon pushing the door open, he was relieved to see a pony-shaped lump sprawled on the bed. "Dagnabbit, Featherbangs," he muttered, flicking on the light. "You had me mighty worried about you." The lump on the bed shifted in annoyance at the light, but didn't react further. Filthy sighed, carefully stepping over stray pieces of laundry and empty food containers before arriving at the foot of the bed. "Come on, Feather. It's hearth-warming day for crying out loud." He poked at the blanket, and the form finally heaved itself up to a sitting position. Featherbangs stared out from beneath the blanket, still draped over his head, and turned slightly to look at Filthy. Feather's eyes were red and ragged, with a heavy set of bags beneath them. "Oh, hey, Filthy," he said, in a voice that lacked emotion. "What's gotten into you, Feather?" asked Filthy. Featherbangs was quiet, staring off into the corner and not looking at Filthy in the eye. "Come on, Feather, talk to me," Filthy insisted, waving a hoof in front of his face. When Featherbangs finally spoke, his voice was crackly and rough, as if he hadn't used it in ages. "She dumped me." Filthy cringed. He was a business pony and an investor, one who was skilled in the boardroom and the stock market. In situations like these, however, he was as useful as a wet rag. Well, what happened?" Feather gave a weak shrug. "I don't know. Just said we couldn't understand each other. I guess I wasn't enough. I never really am. Huh?" "Hey, now, don't go saying that about yourself," offered Filthy, giving him a nervous pat on the shoulder.
But how the heck can I not?
Blurted out Feather, finally looking at Filthy for the first time. Filthy nearly fell off the bed at the outburst.
Not what?
He asked. Featherbang sighed, flopping onto his back.
How can I not feel so, I don't know, rotten? I mean, what did I do wrong, Rich? What the heck did I do to deserve something like this?
You didn't do anything, Feather. Look, I know it's probably tough on you right now, kid, but that's just the way life is sometimes. Filthy offered lamely. Feather turned to look at him, creasing his eyebrows in worry.
Is it?
Sometimes, yeah. Filthy answered, standing up from the bed. But you can't just sit in here all day now.
I bet I can.
Feather muttered, turning on his side to stare at the wall.
If life is just constant misery like this is, I don't want to deal with it. I'll stay here in bed. At least this thing's never hurt me.
Filthy sighed, trotting over to the other side of the bed and poking at him. Now, where's the spirit of the cold I hired back at Barnyard's Bargains years ago? The pony who worked his whole life to finally reach his dream of making music? Dead. Featherbang spat.
She killed him.
Filthy sighed, shaking his head and holding a hoof to his face. Well, that's just being melodramatic, he replied.
Not helping, Rich,
Feather said as he shifted again to stare into the corner. Hey, I was where you were once. Filthy interjected. Met the prettiest mare I ever did see, only for her to turn me down when I finally got the guts to ask her. Feather snorted, folding his forelegs across his chest.
Well, that's different. You grew up in some prim and proper prep school full of rich ponies.
Filthy blinked, cocking his head to the side. Yeah? What's that got to do with anything?
Seriously?
Feather stared at him in disbelief.
Look, you, winning everybody over with your silver tongue and stuff. But me? I moved to some town where every pony was the same because I had no idea how to talk to ponies. And I still don't.
He seized his pillow, burying his head into it. Now you're just making assumptions, Filthy replied, and honestly giving me too much credit, for that matter. Feather propped his chin on the pillow, gazing up at him in confusion.
Huh?
Let me put it this way. This silver tongue you think I have, I think you're confusing that with business skills, Filthy said. Sweet talk in the boardroom and making promises to a room full of investors is miles different than just day-to-day talk.
Really?
Feather raised an eyebrow skeptically.
Can't be that different.
Filthy laughed, slapping his foreleg. Oh, Feather, my naive friend. In that world, you can't just trust anyone as far as you can throw 'em. I learned that lesson a few times. He sighed, the smile slipping away. In reality, you're one of the few ponies I can consider a friend. You know that? Feather rolled his eyes.
I knew you had a soft side. But, yeah, I feel you. Lots of ponies out there just want to get close to you so they can use you. She sure did.
You want to know something? Spoiled was the same way. Filthy replied with a bitter grunt. Looking back, I wonder what I ever saw in that mare. But it's all in the past now. They fell silent for a second, and a smile crept onto Feather's face, but it quickly vanished as his eyes went past him, towards a desk in a corner. They locked onto a framed picture, and his ears drooped down again.
Well, maybe it is for you, but it isn't for me.
Dagnabbit, Feather, you know I ain't good at these heart-to-hearts, Filthy complained.
I never asked you to give one,
Feather replied. But it might be the only thing that'll get you back to normal. Filthy sighed again before rubbing a circle into the bed. Look, Feather, I know you're hurtin'. Ain't no pony in Equestria that can blame you for that either. But like I said, sometimes these things just happen. That doesn't mean that you should give up and stop trying. He looked around the room as he spoke, eyes gazing across the posters and decorations hung up on Feather's walls. Over my life, I've made a lot of deals. Filthy continued, running a hoof through his gray mane. Some of them turned out worse than others, but if I let one bad deal stop me, then hey, I probably wouldn't be here today, even with skill or luck or whatever. Sometimes things just ain't gonna work out. It's gonna sting, Feather. But what's more important is picking yourself up after. Feather moved again, turning to look Filthy in the eye.
But it hurts. It hurts for a while.
He whimpered. It's going to. Filthy quietly replied. You really love that mare, so it'll sting. That's just how it is. It hurts because nobody's thinking about, well, dying when they're happy. Feather, you're a strong pony. I know that much. But like my dad used to say, life deals a bad hand sometimes. You just gotta know how to play out your cards and get to the next one.
So, I'm gonna be okay?
Feather asked suspiciously. Of course you are. Filthy answered. You're still here, ain't you? Feather took a deep breath, squeezing his eyes shut.
Does it always hurt, though?
Yeah. Filthy answered. Sometimes more than others. Let me tell you, the day I divorced Spoiled, I thought I had already been through Tartarus before that. But that day was something else. Those times were rough, Feather, and it hurt for a while. But in the end, I reckon I lived. Feather nodded.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Sometimes it just is what it is.
Exactly. Filthy answered, giving him a pat on the back. Now, what do you say you come by my place for a bit? Get some food in you. Maybe sing Diamond a couple of songs. She's growing on your music, by the way. Featherbangs laughed.
Sure, Rich. If it isn't too much of a problem, I'd love to.
Filthy smiled, getting off the bed and straightening his coat. Fantastic. But, if you could do me one favor first.
What's that?
Do you mind, taking a shower first?